Greetings all, BWS2K here again with Scott Summers in the background. We're on the headset mic again because it is apparently motorcycle weekend. And as I've said before, we live at an intersection, so my camera mic would absolutely be picking up all of the motorcycle convoys going around outside. But be that as it may, we are going to forge on with another episode or issue for Sentinel Man. He has defeated the Vulturions in Birds of a Feather. What was his name? Speed Demon in Phantom of the ATM. He talked down Rhino in Rhino's Rage last time, and this time we are going up against Electro. And the setup for this I will read directly from the New York supplement that we are using from the Marvel Superheroes system, and sort of porting it over into Marvel Heroic. It says, "Cry Havoc, Cry Electro." That's the name of the encounter. While in the vicinity of Lincoln's Circle, the hero's heroic musings are cut short by a lightning bolt that splits the nearby sidewalk or crosses the hero's path if the hero is flying. If there is any doubt about the miscreant responsible, the electronic billboard overlooking the circle spells out his name, E-L-E-C-T-R-O, exclamation point. The Master of Electricity is atop the billboard and having a fine time scaring the populace and attracting attention. His true purpose is to wreak enough havoc to lure a medium-powered hero, maybe we should throw some air quotes there, into interfering so that Electro can defeat him. Electro stays at a distance, firing lightning bolts at the hero and closing only for the coup de grace, grabbing the hero to inflict maximum damage. If damaged by the hero to 1/4 health or below, Electro flees, riding on the power and telephone lines of the city, across the street to the Sutherland building, and then east off the map. Of course, with that system, they actually have maps. And then he can travel kind of like through power lines and through telephone lines and things like that. So for the data file for him, I gave him solo D10, just because it feels like if these are solo folks showing up, I think I probably could have done solo D8, because I know he's been on some team-ups. But I don't really think too hard. I think I said last time, several times, that it's more art than science. I just kind of go with what feels right and what's going to probably be the most interesting in terms of our particular videos, our particular encounters. So I gave him solo D10. 3 distinctions are Master of Electricity, in it for the money, because he is kind of like looking to get hired a lot of times as a henchman, or can be paid off or whatever. And then the third one is Never Going Back, with an exclamation point. The idea there being that he doesn't want to be captured, even in the write-up. He doesn't want to be completely knocked out or taken out. Also, he had some ties to something called Pegasus Foundation or something like that. I'm not really sure with what was going on with him in the 80s when they wrote the supplement, but as a general rule, he is looking to cause some havoc, but looking to stay away from being imprisoned even more. So he's got that distinction. 2 powers, Electric Blast at a D10 and Power Line at a D10. Power Line being sort of the parallel to Swing Line, right? He can travel through wires and stuff. He's 2 SFXs, Overcharge, which allows him to double Electric Blast for an action, but if the action fails, he takes 1d6 of physical stress. And of course, if he happens to have d8 physical stress, that will step him up to d10, and so on, because that's how the stress works. Then he has the Override SFX, which is where he adds a d6 and steps up an effect die, or his effect die, when he's creating electricity-based assets. So I didn't give him electric control or electric mastery. I don't do that. I don't pull things apart, especially if they're going to end up at just about the same rating. If he needs to, control something with his electricity, we'll just use Electric Blast, D10, because he's got that level of control. So pulling it out as power traits to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, for what we're intending to do. And then he has Circuit Breaker as a limit, shut down a power, and add 1d6 to the Doom Pool, and then of course activate an opportunity to recover, because I just like that. He's Combat Expert, Menace Expert, and Crime Expert. I figure that covers most of what he is about, at least again for what we're doing. 2 scene distinctions of Lobster Fest. Lobster Fest, if you're not familiar with that, I don't know if other places on Earth do that, but there is a place near the coast where I live, or where I grew up, that used to celebrate Lobster Fest. It probably still does in like July or something like that. I have never in my life had any lobster, but that is exactly what you think. I have t-shirts with lobsters on it. People flock to the beaches and have cookouts and all this kind of thing. So all that to say that it is probably a very crowded, I mean, they're in New York City, so it's not like they're right on the beach, but it's an event. It's very crowded. There are probably out-of-towners all over. There goes the motorcycles. I don't know if you can hear them. I hope not. And then, so he's got Lobster Fest as one scene distinction, which could be fun. And then also just the other scene distinction of very public, because not only is he in the middle of the public, but he is also on a billboard specifically drawing attention. So I am anticipating that at least a little bit of the from the TV distinction on Sentinel Man is going to come into play. And if not, then regardless, this is going to be a very public battle. So win or lose, it's going to be publicized. And we have the Doom pool starting at 2d6 like normal. So it says Electro is up on a billboard that spells out his name, and he's sort of fishing for heroes, not unlike Rhino last time in the sense that he was waiting for Spider-Man to show up. So I think for setting the scene narratively, we'll have Electro up on the billboard. What is Sentinel Man doing? I think Sentinel Man is probably enjoying or trying to enjoy Lobster Fest, and this is his first Lobster Fest as Sentinel Man, and the realization that he can't indulge in all of the different beverages and should we say lobster-based beverages? I have no idea what that would be, but certainly he would. And Eddie's a little forlorn at this revelation that, man, being Sentinel Man, with great robotic powers come great robotic disappointments. And so he can't really enjoy the holiday as much as he ordinarily does. So I think he's probably down like with the street vendors and in amidst the crowd. And the electric bolts just kind of and probably hits a street cart and sets that, it combusts, right? The smell of burnt lobster filling the air, everyone turning to look and see. And of course, it's not too hard to see where it comes from when you've got Electro spelling his name out on the billboard. And Eddie, he probably waits a few seconds to see if anybody else better shows up. He's kind of rubbed elbows with Captain America, with Spider-Man. Certainly there are lots of other heroes in town who could address this, should address this, are better qualified to address this, and yet they are not seeming to show up here. So, he probably waits a few moments. Nobody's really hurt. Nobody's really getting hurt. That's not Electro's purpose. He's just trying to get attention. Not yet, anyway. But certainly people are going to start getting hurt. And he kind of says something to that effect up there. He's kind of like, well, I guess I'll have to start hurting people and not just lobsters, right? And so Sentinel Man probably takes to the air and meets him up there. Is he going to land on the billboard? I mean, so if they're up on a billboard, right? Yeah, Sentinel Man's probably kind of like hovering, maybe like 10 or 20 feet off the billboard, sort of in front, and kind of has his arms crossed and kind of gets up there and like, okay, Electricity Man, here we go again. Another guy trying to ruin the day for everybody. What's your problem and how can we fix it and get on with our holiday? And so I think that's kind of the introduction and how they're going to start in their action-reaction round. Scott's playing Electro, and it does feel like, since he would have been able to see Sentinel Man approaching him, that we'll actually let Electro go first. So we'll have Electro Man, as he sees Sentinel Man showing up, kind of pause in his rampage, so to speak. By the way, I didn't bother even rolling, as we talked about before with that column. Between the results and the things, it was just like, let's just pick the next rampage. So it was Electro. And so Electro's up there and sees Sentinel Man sort of hovering towards him or gliding towards him, and pauses in what he's doing. Like, is this really the best? Who is this guy? I don't understand. Who's this? Or sorry, that was a Sentinel Man voice. Let's do an Electro voice. Who's this? Who are you? You're not Spider-Man. You don't even have a costume. And he's gonna probably just, yeah. Scott's just like electricity, zap him. So Electro's just gonna try to blast Sentinel Man right out of the sky, out of annoyance more than anything. It's not his best effort. He's like, you know, swatting an insect. So we'll do D10 solo. Master of Electricity at a D8. And do you want to use... Alright, Scott's going to use Very Public as a D4 and give himself another D6. Representing the fact that while Sentinel Man is not exactly who Electro is looking for, the whole situation is very public, and so it is likely that someone else is going to show up soon. So 1d4 for very public scene distinction, and that's a house rule. If you're new, that's a house rule. I allow a distinction from your sheet and a distinction from the scene distinction list, as long as one of them is hindered and one of them isn't. So 1d4 for that. Electric Blast, D10. Do you want to step it up, Scott? No, not really. Okay. Like swatting an insect, you don't give your best to that, right? Override, no. Limit. So, and then this would probably just be Combat Expert. Although it almost falls into Menace Expert, because he's not even really trying to fight him. But we'll let that be his opening attack to do physical stress on Sentinel Man. Ha! Scott, you're a loser. Looks like you're rolling the hitches this time, sir. So that's 2 hitches, and Sentinel Man starts with 1 plot point, and I'm actually going to use that plot point right away to buy one of those hitches as a stunt die. I have something specifically in mind that I want Sentinel Man to do later, and hopefully we can get there. Scott's going to go with a total of 7 with a D8 effect die, which is not much to do physical stress to Sentinel Man. All right, Sentinel Man is in the air, but he is alone, so he is most likely going to try to dodge this. Now, what's interesting here is it's electricity, right? And electricity travels really fast, but it's comic book electricity, which travels almost as fast as normal electricity, except you can see it. So I think while it does make sense that enhanced flight would be in play. I think most importantly, enhanced senses is what's going to be what allows him to dodge. So we're going to go solo D6. I Sentinel at a D8. And again, I'm going to throw Very Public in there for him as well and get a plot point back, because I feel like that is... He's kind of worked up a bit of a name for himself, but having a public defeat would be bad. And so he's going to throw in 1d4 there. And not to mention the fact that there are, you know, the electricity's got to go somewhere. There are a lot of bystanders. So if this doesn't work, probably another lobster stand is going to get zapped. Okay, so we've got 1d6 solo, 1d8 from I Sentinel, 1d4 from Very Public, and then we're going to use Enhanced Senses at 1d8. I don't think we're going to go with any of the SFXs for Sentinel Physiology. Bonus features, Psychic Resistance, Telekinetic Blast, Telekinesis. No, those things don't really come into play here. Combat Expert, 1d8 does. So that's a 1d6, 1d8, 1d4, 1d8, 1d8. So we're trying to beat a 7. Hopefully not too bad. Ah, lovely. So we could do 16 and a d8, which is a heroic success. If we spent our plot point, we could counterattack right away. But we didn't use any of our telekinesis or anything, so it's not like we could turn it around. But that's a really good roll. I mean, 2 of my d8s turned up as 8s. But I don't really see a way that we can make it into a counterattack per se. So we'll just let it go. Total of 16 with d8 effect. Can you guys hear that? Good grief. I've never owned a motorcycle. I have no desire to own a motorcycle. Okay, so Electro's attack failed miserably. I think probably what happened is he threw it at Sentinel Man, and Sentinel Man's sort of sentinel senses detected the incoming lightning bolt, and he just kind of shifted over to the side and it went past him. Probably hits the side of like another skyscraper. I'm kind of picturing this as taking place sort of in a square where you kind of have higher buildings all around, but there's sort of a park or an open area. So it probably goes all the way across and hits a building on the other side of the event. Which brings us to Sentinel Man's turn. So Sentinel Man is probably not really feeling like the emotional, like last time he was able to kind of inflict emotional stress on Rhino and stuff. This does not feel like that. This is going to probably be a little more hands-on, and so he is going to probably try to, you know, he always freezes people with telekinesis just because I really like that idea, but I think maybe we'll go with telekinetic blast and just try to knock Electro down onto the top of the building that he's on, so at least he's kind of out of the way. Like his stray electricity is probably not going to hit as many bystanders. So Sentinel Man kind of dodges the electricity, incoming electricity, and says something like all right, time to settle this for now, or something like that, and kind of reaches out and does a telekinetic blast to knock Electro back onto the rooftop. This would be dealing physical stress. So we've got 1d6 solo. Probably this is going to be Sentinel, or no, I guess we used Refuse of the Mojo verse when we were doing telekinesis stuff. So let's use that one to represent less of the Sentinel side of him, more of the sort of psychic stuff, telekinesis stuff. Very Public, Lobster Fest. Yeah, we'll use Very Public again as a D4 to represent that again. If he fails, then there's still this impending threat to the public. So we'll grab a plot point for that. Oops. Grab a plot point for that. Enhanced durability, enhanced flight. I'm actually thinking enhanced flight here because he's kind of like charging in air to try to push him off with the telekinetic blast. So I'm going to throw a D8 there. And then the telekinetic blast is a D8. Now he has area attack, but that's not really going to help much. And we have combat expert as a D8. Anything else? I don't think so. I think we'll go with that. 1d6, and he's got a d4 and then 4 d8s to do physical stress. Another low roll. So we can do 10, but I really want to do more than that. So I'm actually going to spend a plot point to keep 3 dice. So I'm going to go with a 6 and both of the 4s for a total of 14. With a D8 effect for physical stress on Electro. Scott's going to assemble a pool here for Electro. Electro not necessarily known for dodging telekinesis. So it's going to be probably just, he's going to hope to not so much dodge, but just kind of like withstand. You know, kind of almost like when a bug hits a bug light, or what do you call them, bug zapper? I don't know what you guys call them up here, but when kind of get kind of like just have the telekinesis dispersed across sort of an electric force field kind of. So we'll go 1d10 for solo, Master of Electricity, or Never Going Back. What do you want to do? Master of Electricity. Scott says Master of Electricity, so that's what we'll go with, Master of Electricity. Lobster Fest, Very Public. I mean, he's looking for other heroes, so I think we can use the Very Public for him as well. And Scott's going to turn one of his D6 into a D8, increase the lowest die in his pool. And then Electric Blast and Power Line, both of those, Scott, they don't really... All right, Scott's thinking maybe he wants to actually dodge, and he's going to try to use Power Line to zap through the billboard to another part of the billboard, because he wants those D10s. The Combat Expert, yeah. And that's your pool. All right. you need to beat a 16, or excuse me, a 14. And you cannot, unless you really empty the doom pool. The best you can do is an 11 with a d10. And that d10 does step down my d8. So Scott's going to go total of 11. He's not going to spend from the doom pool just yet. Total of 11, because he's going to grab the 6 and the 5. And he's going to have the 3 that rolled as a d10 effect. And that actually steps down, so he fails to dodge. So Electro kind of gets hit. Maybe there's the sound of telekinetic energy hitting the electric energy, but he kind of gets thrown onto the rooftop behind the billboard, right? He did roll a hitch there, but I already have one stunt die. Do I want to buy another stunt die? Can you have more than one stunt die? That'd be cool. No, I'm just going to leave it there. Passing on a lot of opportunities here, but that's okay. But it does step down. Electro's D10 does step down the incoming D8, so it becomes just D6. So we'll put D6 physical stress on Electro. Him kind of being knocked off the billboard and falling onto the rooftop. So that is Sentinel Man's turn, which means I get to pick who goes next. And I think I'm just going to pick me again. Sentinel Man, even though that's going to allow Electro to go twice after me. Now Sentinel Man, now that he's on the rooftop, Sentinel Man's going to kind of land and try to do his telekinesis, holding Electro in place. But at the same time that he's doing this, he's going to keep up the electric blast. He's going to lash out with another one. So I'm actually going to end up using 2 of my powers there, or power trait dice from the bonus features. But let's go in order. So this is Sentinel Man. You know, Electro poof hits the roof, and Sentinel Man's like, now that we've got you off your pedestal, let's keep you there until somebody can pick you up. So he's going to go 1d6 solo. And we're going to go Refuse of the Mojoverse? Yeah, sure. Refuse of the Mojoverse, because we're definitely doing psychic stuff. Lobsterfest and Very Public, less important right now, so I feel like those don't really come into play because we're kind of on the rooftop now. So we're not going to take a D4 from either of those. Sentinel Physiology, we'll go with Enhanced Senses again, or Enhanced Flight. Maybe he hasn't landed yet. Maybe he's still kind of hovering in the air, ready to dodge again if needed. Also probably trying to keep an eye out for any other heroes that may be around. So, you know, maybe he's still up in the air. A little bit of superiority flex. 1d8 for that. Still wonky. Nope. Branding. Nope. Bonus features. So here I'm going to use telekinesis to hold Electro in place, but then the telekinetic blast to keep him sort of buffeted and kind of wear him out. So unlike previously where Sentinel Man was often trying to just keep the villains still, Electro doesn't need to move in order to do damage, right? His electricity control and power and stuff like that doesn't really require much in terms of movement. So Sentinel Man is still trying to keep him in duress. So he's going to hit him with a telekinetic blast again, kind of keep that pressure on. And in order to do that, I'm going to spend a plot point. One of the things you can do is keep an extra trait, or keep a second trait from a power set. And then Combat Expert, 1d8. So this is, again, trying to up Electro's stress, but also we are trying to keep him in place. But mechanically, it's stress. So we've got 2 7s and a 6. Well, and a 1. Scott says he's going to buy that from me, that hitch, and he's going to step up another one of his D6s to a D8. Then I think that I am going to make it a total of 20 by... Actually, I'm going to... I'm going to use Phantom of the ATM off my session record as a, so session records, if you're not familiar, you can basically reference something that you've done before from that session and immediately have all the benefits of a plot point. So I'm going to reference Phantom of the ATM and sort of have this flashback, which is kind of what we did last time, I think, of where Sentinel Man was really struggling to hold Speed Demon in his chair, because as a speedster, he was really, that was a really rough battle for Sentinel Man. And so I think he's going to have a little bit of flashbacks, because he's not just holding Electro in place, he's actually trying to hold Electro in place and do more, kind of learning those lessons of, because he doesn't want to hurt anybody, that's not his goal, but at the same time, if he's going to be a hero, that does involve some physical stress. So I think he's going to reference in his mind the Phantom of the ATM encounter and keep a third die. So he's going to go 7, 7, and 6. So it's a total of 20. And he's going to have that D10, that 2 there, is going to be a D10 for physical stress to Electro. I'm learning to be a little bit more explanatory in my chat log, just because it helps me to not forget things so much. Hopefully it helps me forget to not forget things so much. I'm actually going to put an X. We'll remember. We'll remember that. I mean, I just talked about how I forget things, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Okay, so Scott is going to have Electro respond to this, and Scott is probably going to have Electro try to sort of meet the meet the telekinetic energy with more of this electricity. So even though it's not necessarily mechanically a counter attack to do stress on Sentinel Man, it is still how Electro is responding, with just sort of lashing out with electricity, trying to defeat this action from Sentinel Man. So 1d10 solo. Oh, I should have thrown in Electro's, so I could have thrown in Electro's d6 stress that he has, but as it turns out, I did have a d6 roll a d6, and that another d6 as a 6 would not have changed my total or anything. But I got to remember that moving forward. Talking about things I forget. 1d10 solo, Master of Electricity. I feel like, yeah, Scott says he's going to use 1d4, never going back, because it's unlikely that he's going to get a total of 21. So he's going to actually hinder himself by taking never going back, to reference the fact that Electro is kind of panicking, right? He's like, no, you're not who I wanted. This can't happen to me. And just sort of going crazy with electricity and trying to push back against this telekinetic attack. And so he's going to take that as a d4. Electric Blast, 1d10. He can't use Overcharge because this is a reaction, not an action. But Combat Expert, certainly. 1d8. Oh my goodness. That's not the worst thing ever. I was hoping for at least a heroic success. Although I guess it wouldn't have made a huge difference. So Scott's got an 8, a 4, a 7, and a 6. So he can't reduce it if he has a d10 effect. It's still going to be a d10 coming in. But he doesn't have to spend anything, and he can do a total of 15. Oh, and that would step it up. So I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Okay. All right. Scott's going to go with a total of 15. He's going to add the 8 and the 7. He's feeling risky, or it's getting risky. Total of 15 with a d10 effect, which is a failure on Electro's part and a success on Sentinel Man's part, and it steps up Sentinel Man's effect die because 15 is 5 less than 20. So the d10 becomes a d12, and that is going to put Electro at d12p stress. So narratively, this is Electro, the lightning is flashing out and stuff, but Sentinel Man is just, this is not his first rodeo. He has done this exact thing to villains before, and he is getting better at it. And Electro is just feeling crushed by the weight of this telekinetic field and pressure, and it is just wearing him out. Maybe even his electricity is sort of tracing along telekinetic paths, and he's feeling sort of drained in that sense. So that is my turn. Now it is Electro's turn, and Scott is not going to pull any punches. So Electro, in one last desperate attempt, is going to try to use his overcharge SFX to just send a massive blast, sort of empty his reserves into Sentinel Man, and just right. And maybe even pulling in electricity from other sources, like the billboard arcing out and hitting Sentinel Man, and maybe like from something in the building, maybe some antennas or satellites or something like that. Just everything, just kind of like in Highlander, if you ever watched the show Highlander or the movies Highlander, at the end when the quickening is happening, right? There's just electricity all over the place, you know, from wherever. So 1d10 solo. Master of Electricity is definitely 1d8 here. Electric Blast, we're going to have 2d10, but if he fails, how am I going to remember that? Let's put a stunt die literally over top of his head. Will that remind us? Don't fail. Or if you fail, remember what you have to do. Although actually, if he fails, it's going to step up his physical stress and take him out. So this is a very much a last-ditch move. So we've got double for that. And then we're not going to use Override, but Combat Expert, 1d8. Scott, you got 3d8s in there. All right, Scott wants to keep 3d8s in the Doom pool because he's probably going to spend them to keep additional dice. So this is his action to massively electrocute Sentinel Man. Ooh. And I think you might succeed, sir. So he doesn't have any d10s in the Doom pool, so he can't keep an additional d10, but he can add the 10 and the 10 and the 8 for a total of 18, and then he's going to spend a Doom die to keep the 7, so he's going to have a total of 25, and he's going to have to spend a Doom die to do that, one of his d8s. But then he's going to use the d10, the remaining d10. So if he adds the 10 and the 8, he's got the 6 left. So he's going to add the remaining one to do physical stress to Sentinel Man. Just go SM. Oof, that is a pretty big total. All right, Sentinel Man, what is he going to do in reaction to all of this electricity? I mean, this is definitely enhanced durability coming into play. So I think he's going to try to hold his ground. And if you remember back in Birds of a Feather, he kind of did this telekinetic force field push, right? So I think that's what we're going to do here. And we'll actually end up referencing Birds of a Feather, I think, to add in an extra die somehow, or maybe just to keep a third die. Probably just to keep a third die, because there's really no other. I mean, you have durability and you have flight, I guess. Well, electricity has to fly, so let's use flight because there's no conductor directly to him. So we could do it that way. Let's do it that way. So we're gonna go solo plus this is gonna probably be refuse of the Mojoverse again, because he's doing telekinetic stuff. And then we're going to throw enhanced durability and enhanced flight, both of those in there, and we're going to reference the Birds of a Feather situation where he's kind of pushing back with his telekinetic force field. No, you know what? I don't think we will. We'll spend a plot point to do this. We'll spend a plot point to do this because that doesn't make any sense narratively speaking, referencing that for doing that specific thing. But we do get telekinesis at 1d10 and combat expert at 1d8, and we still have that stunt die. let's use the stunt die. And again, so he is trying to do the thing that he did with the Vulturions, kind of, and shirk off this electricity. Okay, so we have an 8 and a 6, which is 14. And if I'm referencing birds of a feather, I can keep a third die, which would be a 5. So 8 and 6 is 14 plus 5 is 19. We have to hit a 25, and I can't really do that. So if we go with 19 and D10 effect, it is not enough to do what he was trying to do. So he is going to take stress. So Sentinel Man, despite his referencing a previous event and all this stuff, he's just not seasoned enough. So I think did not fail. And he ends up getting zapped. So I think in pushing out with his telekinesis, I think it probably did actually work to some extent, because it certainly didn't blast him the way Electro was hoping. But it sort of arced through all of his telekinetic bands and still hit him. And of course, he's a robot. So water is his main weakness, but electricity isn't too far behind. Excuse me, drinking from my Marvel mug. As I state that water is Sentinel Man's weakness, mine is, of course, not water at all. It's a dry mouth. So so that takes care of Electro's move, and I think Sentinel Man is just going to kind of like scream out, but I think in this case, it's going to be kind of like Eddie's voice, but it almost gets like roboticized. Like it's got that robot sort of metallic-y ring to it because it's really hitting him hard. And Scott, being Scott, is going to go ahead and have Electro go again and try to finish the job. So he's going to go 1d10. He's going to keep up the pressure of the electricity. Master of Electricity, 1d8. Electric Blast, we'll go with 2d10 again. Again, it worked last time, but if it fails, he's out. And Combat Expert, 1d8. So again, just kind of like really charging, you know, trying to hit Sentinel Man again with an Electric Blast. Oh, and he's going to add in 1d10 of... Oh, I could have added in the d12 physical stress for Electro. Man, I always forget that. Okay, so he's going to add in the d10 physical stress for Sentinel Man. Alright, he rolled a 1, but I don't have any power points, or excuse me, plot points. But as a total, he can do a 9 and a 6 for 14. He's going to spend a Doom die to keep another one. So he's going to add the 9 and the 6, which are both d10s. So that's a total of 15. And then he's going to add the 8. So that's a total of 23 with a d10 effect for physical stress to Sentinel Man. All right, Sentinel Man, I think he's in a worse situation than he just was. So I think he's going to... Oof. Well, we can add still wonky for enhanced durability. So Sentinel Man's reaction, I think, as he's sort of like, his speech is sort of getting all warbly and he's obviously being electrocuted, he is at this point trying to hold on. I think he realizes that this may not be a battle that he can win, and he is trying to, he is hoping that some other hero is going to step in, you know, show up soon. Maybe he's bought a little bit of time. Somebody's called the police, something like that. So we're actually going to go 1d6 solo, not 1d65. And we're going to go with, from the TV, I think. Because I think with all the onlookers, even though they're on the roof and not immediately there, I think maybe somebody has noticed him. And probably if it's being televised, some of the heroes have noticed him. He was in the Daily Bugle. And I'm actually going to double Oh, I don't have a plot point for it. Well, I can use Rhino's Rage. I'll use the session record Rhino's Rage. Oh, but if I do that, then I can't keep a third die. All right, I guess I can't double it. But I am still going to use from the TV as a 1d8. Because I feel like at this point, we are Eddie is hoping that somebody's going to come and tag him out. So 1d8 for that. Durability. I can step up or double any Sentinel power for one action. So I can't do that here either. So, all right, so enhanced durability, 1d8. Things are not looking good. Psychic resistance, telekinesis. I feel like the telekinesis is... He's still trying to push back. I mean, I don't know. Telekinesis probably works against electricity, right? And 1d8 for combat expert, but he is not going to be able to do that. Even if he gets a 10 and an 8, that's only 18, which means he's going to have to get at least a 5. This is a real long shot. Oh, you're right. Scott is pointing at his physical stress. So I do get a d12 physical stress in there from Electro. That does help. Hopefully. Yeah, because Electro is so worn out. Okay, it's not the worst thing ever, but is it enough? We have an 8 and a 7 for a total of 15. And if I add in that 6, it's just a 21. Which is still not a whole lot. But what I can do, I'll reference Rhino's Rage, because that was a very publicized event, right? So hopefully somebody has seen and is on their way, even though the total is not going to beat 23. Narratively speaking, that's what we used, was from the TV as a distinction. So narratively, even though there is a failure on this reaction, hopefully somebody has seen what's going on. So we're going to go with the 7 and the 8 for a total of 15, and then we're going to add in the 6 for a total of 21. And we're actually going to have that D12 effect die. And that's going to step down the incoming physical stress to a D8, although it doesn't really matter because it's still going to step up Sentinel Man's stress to a D12. But that would be helpful if that was anything that helped. So again, he is just kind of all kinds of zapped and wigging out, and probably starting to say things that a Sentinel would say, as well as things that Eddie says. Like he's kind of coming apart at the seams, so to speak. You know, he might say something like, come on down to Eddie's Exotic Emporium. Mutant apprehended, like he's switching back and forth, because this is really a lot of stress on him. But it is now his turn, and his action did succeed, so we don't need to worry about that. It is now Eddie's turn, and man, we've used all our session records and we don't have a plot point. So I think it is fair at this point to 26 solo. From the TV thing is not working for him, but certainly the Eye Sentinel is counting against him here. Like, this is really scrambling him. So we're going to get a plot point by hindering ourselves with the Eye Sentinel distinction. Sentinel physiology. So what are we trying to do as an action? I mean, I guess I was just still in my reaction mode. So as an action, what is he going to try to do? Is he just going to try to keep up the pressure on Electro? Yeah, I think probably. Yeah, I think he's going to just try to keep that telekinetic stuff going, at the same time not try to totally overload his own circuits and stuff. So we'll go with enhanced durability, but we will use the still wonky SFX to step it up, and if we fail, we're going to add something to the doom pool, a D8 to the doom pool. So we're going to do like that as a reminder, and then we're going to add durability, but we're going to step it up to a D10. And then we come to bonus features, and we've got telekinesis and telekinetic blast. So it feels like the blast is not working so much, but the telekinesis. And then we will add in combat expert and also Electro's stress. So this is essentially, it's only a matter of time before one of these 2 sort of collapses. Oh, that hurts. That's a hitch on the D12. And Scott's just going to step his D8 up to a D10 there. All right, for a total, I can do a 10 and a 6 for 16. And I can spend a plot point to keep the 5 as well. So that's 21. 10 and a 6 for 16 plus the 5 is a total of 21 with D10. Do I want to spend the other? Wow. I mean, we got to go all in, right? If it doesn't work, does keeping a plot point help in any way? I guess I could change from physical to a different. So all right, so hang on to the plot point then. Yeah, we'll hang on to the plot point. So total of total of 21 with a D10 effect to cause physical stress to Electro. So this is just, now they're kind of locked in this battle, right? Oh, here, we're at a, he acted, this is me acting. So his reaction is going to be at 1d10 solo. And again, Electro is just kind of pushing back with all the electricity he can muster from himself, but also from the area. They're kind of in this battle of wills almost. So d10 for that. Master of Electricity, 1d8. Don't for any action, so we can't do that, but we can do 1d10 anyway. For Electric Blast. The write-up did say he would try and escape, right? I don't think that's what's happening here. Had things gone differently, yeah, I could see Eddie scaring him off, but in this moment, this is there isn't. He is kind of locked in place through the telekinesis to a degree. They're almost, the electricity and the telekinesis, the two of them. He's a robot. He's, you know, living electricity. There's almost this. It's not so easy for them to part ways, either one of them to part ways. So I think that he's not going to try to use power line and escape. But we will do Combat Expert. And then add in Eddie's physical stress, which is a D12. And this is Electro's reaction to not be completely overwhelmed by Sentinel Man's attack. Ugh. All right. We can do a 9 and a 6 for a total of 15 plus the 8. So the 9 and the 6 plus the 8. Well, no, because you can't do that because you've only got one doom die. Okay. All right. So this is what we had. I was kind of thinking about last night as I was thinking about how this session might go. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to add the 9 and the 6, and that's going to be a total of 15, right? And he's going to choose the D8 effect. So Electro fails in this reaction, which causes Sentinel Man's action to succeed, which means that Electro is physically stressed out. However, Scott is going to do something interesting here. He's going to still spend his doom die. I don't know what the rules would say about this. I suppose if you fail the reaction, you can still do this, but if you are taken out of the scene, I don't know that the order of operations would necessarily allow this, but we are going to allow this because I think it's a really cool moment. So he's actually going to spend the D10 out of the doom pool to, oh my gosh, these motorcycles. Actually, it's not really the motorcycle's fault, right? It's the fact that we live in an intersection. Anyways, so we're going to actually spend the D10 to inflict one of these other die as a counterattack. So if we do effect of D10, and then spend the D10 to inflict the D10 to counterattack. This means that Sentinel Man will be taken out of the scene, okay? So I'm going to have this be represented as the fact that the two of them are pushing against each other so much with their respective energies, and they have, Sentinel Man is so weak to this electricity and such that it is essentially this sort of mini electric explosion, right? Just on the rooftop, and Electro is out. Like, he's just, he's charred, and the area around him is charred, and maybe there's a little bit of electricity that kind of fizzles out. But Sentinel Man also is totally out of commission, just blasted, and he's absolutely now kind of like speaking binary and Sentinel lines coming in with Eddie's recollection lines, things that he's said in the past and stuff. And but he is like shorted out. There's a little bit of smoke coming from out of his ears, at this point, with both of them taken out, I think we'll have maybe Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's kind of like the Electro main villain, and also he is somebody that Sentinel Man did see last session. Spider-Man is starting to kind of like crests the building and sees the two of them, but what he sees in the last few panels of this encounter is a portal open up. So Sentinel Man is like on his back, laying there on the rooftop, and kind of glitching out, right? And there's this round portal that opens up above his body, and 6 arms, one of them is robotic, reaches through the portal, right? And he grabs Sentinel Man by the lapels and yanks him up through the portal, and it closes. Okay. And, Spider-Man has seen weird things in his time, and he recognizes, thinks he recognizes anyway, who that was, in terms of it was Eddie, but no idea what's going on with the portal. But he definitely sees Electro and sort of webs him up. And the law enforcement, works together with law enforcement, takes it from there. But maybe Spider-Man is kind of thinking back to Eddie. But if you know anything about Mojo, then you also know about Spiral. And Spiral is kind of his main henchwoman. And she has 5 arms and a robotic arm. And she can travel sort of trans-dimensionally and stuff. So that is what the astute readers of the issue are going to immediately go, oh, refuse of the Mojoverse. Mojo's taken Eddie back. And I think that is an amazing ending to this encounter, and why I don't mind having Eddie lose, because for once he needs to lose, but he also kind of won in the fact that he stopped Electro. And maybe even gained a villain in Electro, because this was not at all what Electro was hoping for in terms of power level, but also in terms of now he has been captured. He's going back, whether he likes it or not. Awesome. I'm glad that turned out well. So that's that. So that's the session wrap up, and I don't think I have anything else to add. I don't think I actually messed anything up except the one time I forgot to add Electro's stress into Eddie's pool. I don't think I goofed on anything, but if I did, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think about the future. I should revisit that. I did mention last weekend that I want to do a Nightmares of Future Past. Here's the deal. My schedule is oftentimes affected by sort of health issues here, not just myself, but others in the house. And so I don't always have the free time that I think I have. And in order to run these sessions, I have to come up with data files. It's not a ton of work. A lot of the groundwork has already been laid. It's not a ton of work, but it is still some work in terms of making data files, in terms of sitting down and recording the session and then editing afterwards, which is, again, I'm not whining here or anything like that, but it does take some time. And so I think the Nightmares of Future Past, I was really anticipating a chunk of free time this week that I didn't end up having. It is something that I want to do for a number of reasons, and it is something that's close to my heart. So it will almost certainly happen at some point. It's just going to be such an overhaul of what I already have planned that it's easier to keep going with Sentinel Man. If that's what I can do, set the bar low and achieve it, then that's what I kind of have to go for. So that has not been abandoned, but it is kind of relegated to a middle burner, not back burner, middle burner. And this was easier to do with Sentinel Man today because it takes a little less time. But let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you're excited about Nightmares of Future Past, if you have other ideas of things that you want to see us do here, if if there's a format that you really like that you see somewhere else. I did mention also in the past that I have some video editing software. I was really hoping to actually get into that this past week, and again, that didn't happen. So I'll be using the regular software. But I have these, it's always good to have a goal, but then it's always good to be realistic. So that's kind of the balance that I'm riding here. If you have any questions, of course, you can let me know in the comments. If you have any observations, etc., definitely check out cortexrpg.com. The Cortex Prime is a great guide. We are kind of using Marvel Heroic still, but there are elements of Cortex Prime that I'm trying to seed in here. Marvel Heroic is like 95% Cortex Prime anyway, right? It's an ancestor, but I'm trying to pull in some interesting ideas from there, like the session record instead of using milestones. Session records are one of the things in Cortex Prime, and other things, kind of the way stuff flows. So if you've watched this, then you pretty much know how a Cortex game goes. So I would encourage you to check that system out. But even if you don't, and you go to cortexrpg.com, they have the Discord link down near the bottom, which is great if you're a Discord person. We have games there. I personally run games on Friday nights, every Friday night. We just started the Breakout scenario from the New Avengers comics, and that's kind of what the default scenario is in the Marvel Heroic basic book. And so we've started that with a couple players, and it's always good times, and other people kick up games at different times of Cortex or Tales of Zadia or Hammerheads, or I know that Legends of Grayskull is kind of on the horizon as the next thing that they're going to release. It's just a great community, great place to hang out. If you like all this sort of stuff and want to see more of it, I would highly recommend that. And then, as I think I've mentioned before, Marvel Plot Points as a website, marvelplotpoints.com, is a great resource specifically for Marvel Heroic. Okay, enough of my talking. Thank you so much for tuning in from Scott and I both, and we will see you next time. Excelsior.